There is a remarkable show on stage in Colorado Springs right now. It's the story of an American musical icon.
Satchmo at the Waldorf is a one-man show. It's a play told from the point of view of Louis Armstrong, the jazz trumpet player with the gravelly voice, best known for Hello, Dolly and What a Wonderful World. Armstrong is played by John Douglas Thompson. He's considered one of the top classical and Shakespearean actors in America today. I talked to him this afternoon at UCCS on stage at Theatreworks.
This play kind of really explores Armstrong in all his rawness, much more of a private interpretation of this guy as opposed to a public persona. And it explores it through a relationship that he had with his manager, this guy named Joe Glazer. So what you kind of see through the play is the complexity of Armstrong's life and the behind-the-scenes look, if you will. I think a lot of people were unaware of Armstrong's political leanings, his understandings about racial politics, the understandings of his own craft, of being a jazz musician, the difference between a commercial music and pretty much straight-ahead jazz. And I think there are some ideas that Armstrong has that most people were just not familiar with.
Can you give me an example?
Well, Armstrong was kind of the first black jazz musician to be able to stay in hotels. I mean, back then, we're talking in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they would go into town to play a gig, but all the black musicians had to stay at other locations. They couldn't stay at the hotel. And Armstrong demanded to stay at these major hotels that he was performing at.
Why was he able to do that?
Well, I think because of his prominence, his ability, his success, and he had a wonderful manager behind him by the name of Joe Glazer, who I also play in the play, that really made some things happen for him as an artist. But he demanded it, and I think after a while they just got tired of fighting him on that.
Tape all my shows and listen to afterward, polish up the rough spots.
At the age of, 19 through 21, he began recording albums. And so some of the first jazz albums were recorded by Louis Armstrong called the Hot Fives and the Hot Sevens. And actually there were some of the first albums, period, that actually came out for people to listen to. So he was way ahead of the curve as it related to jazz. And obviously he's the architect of it, right? People consider him the architect of jazz. But he was doing things in his earlier years that a lot of people aren't aware of. So most people are aware of his singing voice because he had such a distinctive singing voice. What Armstrong is grappling with on stage in this play is his legacy and the choices that he made.
He has performed this show in New York, LA, other places, and now right here at UCCS Theatreworks through March 6th. For ticket information, go to Kktv.com, click on Find It.
And Don, John seems so interesting.
He knows a lot about Louis Armstrong. Yeah. For instance, he's supposed to be called Louis, not Louis. Armstrong hated it when people called him Louis. And I asked him, how does this play end? And he says, I like to leave it open-ended because not every life has a happy ending. He doesn't like to swing it one way or the other. He says, let the audience judge.
I'd like to see it myself.
Yeah, it looks like it's really good. We'll be right back with sports.